जय गौरभक्तवृन्द हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna everyone. So I'm continuing to read from the next paragraph. We are reading from the 20th chapter from the book Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. In the Vishnu Puran 6.7.61, it is clearly stated, Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Kshetrajnakhya Tatha Para Avidya Karma Samyagnya Tritiya Shaktir Ishyate. Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta, the energy of Supreme Lord, is divided into three: Para, Kshetrajna, and Avidya. The Para energy is actually the energy of the Supreme Lord Himself. The Kshetrajna energy is the living entity. Kshetrajna means the knower of the field. Krishna is Sarva Kshetrajna. He is the knower of all the fields. He knows about all the living entities, and the living entity himself or herself, living entities as such, not himself or herself, but the living entity is the knower of oneself. So Kshetrajna is the energy, is the living entity, and Avidya energy is the material world or Maya. It is called Avidya or ignorance because under the spell of this material energy, one forgets his actual position and his relationship with the Supreme Lord. The conclusion is that the living entities represent one of the energies of the Supreme Lord. As infinitesimal parts and parcels of the Supreme, they are called Jivas. If the Jivas are artificially placed on the same level with the infinite Supreme, because both of them are Brahman or spirit, just because both of them are spirit or both of them are Brahman, if we forget that one is Supreme Brahman and others are part and parcel of that Supreme Brahman, then bewilderment will certainly be the result. Generally, Mayavadi philosophers are perplexed before a learned Vaishnav because the Mayavadis cannot explain the cause of bondage of the living entities. Why the living entities are so bound by the material energy. They cannot explain, the Mayavadis. They simply say it is due to ignorance. But what is this ignorance? They cannot explain. But they cannot explain how the living entities can be covered by ignorance if they are supreme. They call themselves Narayan. They greet each other or address each other as Narayan. But they do not understand that if they are Narayan, that means if they are supreme, then how can they be covered by ignorance? How is it possible that the Supreme is covered by ignorance? The actual reason is that the living entities, although qualitatively one with the Supreme, are infinitesimal. They are not infinite. So they are infinitesimal, but they are not infinite. They are part of that infinite, but they are themselves not infinite. So qualitatively they are same as the Supreme, but they are not quantitatively they are not same. Had they been infinite, there would have been no possibility of their being covered by ignorance. Because the living entity is infinitesimal, he can be covered by an inferior energy. The foolishness and ignorance of the Mayavadis are revealed when they try to explain how the infinite can be covered by ignorance. See, Mayavadis, their philosophy is actually bogus, that is exposed or that can be understood exactly when they are unable to explain why this infinite is covered by ignorance. If you think that all of the living entities are also infinite, they are one and same as the supreme, then how is it that all these jivatmas, they are covered by ignorance? So when they are asked to explain this point, that explanation proves or reveals that they are foolish and they are ignorant. Although Shankara attempted to cover the Supreme Lord by his Mayavad philosophy, he was simply following the order of the Supreme Lord. It should be understood that his teachings, that is Shankara's teachings, were a timely necessity but not a permanent fact. As per time, place, circumstances, the Supreme Lord manifests as different um, in different forms, or he sends um, his associates, his servants, his dear devotees, pure devotees, as per time, place, circumstances, they come as acharyas. Acharya means one who is a great teacher, one who teaches by example, one who is fully knowledgeable. They come as acharyas for that particular situation, for the particular mass of people, and for the particular uh, place. But it is not a permanent fact. So here Mahaprabhu is explaining that although Shankaracharya, he attempted to cover the Supreme Lord by his Mayavad philosophy, but we should understand, Mahaprabhu is saying this, that he was simply following the order of the Supreme Lord. It should be understood that his teachings were a timely necessity. For that particular time, it was required. But it is not a permanent fact. In the Vedanta Sutra, the distinction between the energy, that is, all of us, the different energies of the Lord, and the energetic, that is, the Supreme Lord Himself, from whom all the energies emanate, is accepted from the very beginning. That there is a distinction. The energetic and the energy is different. There is a distinction. And from the very beginning, this aspect has been accepted in the Vedanta Sutra. The second aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra is Janmadi Asya Yataha. Clearly states, Janma Adi Asya Yataha. Clearly states that the supreme absolute truth is the source of all emanations. The source of all emanations, Janma, that means the creation of all the living entities. Adi, Adi means etc. and all other things. Asya Yataha is everything is emanating from the supreme absolute truth. Thus the emanations are the energy of the supreme, whereas the supreme himself is the energetic. Shankara has falsely argued that if the transformation of energy is accepted, the supreme absolute truth cannot remain immutable. But this is not true. If transformation of energy is accepted, that energy gets transformed, then the supreme absolute truth cannot remain immutable. Despite the fact that unlimited energies are always being generated, the supreme absolute truth remains always the same. He is not affected by the emanation of unlimited energies. That means, although unlimited energies are emanating from the supreme absolute truth, but that does not mean that the supreme absolute truth is getting um, depreciated by the emanation of such energies, is getting impacted by such energies, or is reducing in its own energy just because so many other energies are emanating from the supreme absolute truth. No, that is not the case. It is not true. The supreme absolute truth always remains unaffected or is not affected by the emanation of unlimited energies. Shankaracharya has therefore incorrectly established his theory of illusion. Ramanujacharya has discussed this point very nicely. One may argue, since there was only one absolute truth before the creation of this material world, how is it possible that the living entities emanated from him? So this point has been discussed by Ramanujacharya. That one may argue that there was only one absolute truth before the creation of this material world. Then how is it possible that the living entities are all emanating from him? If he were alone, supreme absolute truth was only there before the creation of material world, he was alone, then how all these living entities are emanating from him? If he were alone, how could he have produced or generated so many innumerable, infinitesimal living entities? Are you able to understand the question? The question being asked is, he was alone. So alone, how did he produce so many infinitesimal living entities? In the material, we know that, okay, every kid has parents. There's a mother, there is a father. Then how is it that if the absolute truth, only one absolute truth, he is there and so many infinitesimal living entities are created, how is it possible? So Ramanujacharya has discussed this point. In answer to this question, the Vedas state that everything is generated from the absolute truth. Everything is maintained by the absolute truth. And after annihilation, everything enters into the absolute truth. This statement from the Upanishads make it clear that when the living entities are liberated, they enter into the supreme existence without changing their original constitutional position. They enter into the supreme existence, but that does not mean that they merge and their identity is lost. The identity remains as it is. It is not lost, it simply enters and stays there. But it is not merged. I mean, it is not diluted. The identity is not diluted. The original constitutional position doesn't change. It remains the same. What is the original constitutional position? We are part and parcel of the supreme absolute truth, and we are eternal servants of the supreme absolute truth. That is our original constitutional position. Our means not just me, you, or just the human beings, but all the living entities that are there, humanity at large, whatever living entities, whether they are in the plant form, whether they are in the vegetation form, they are in the aquatics form, they are in the they are as birds or animals, whatever it is, insects, all the living entities, because ultimately we have to keep this in mind that what we are seeing with our eyes is only the gross body. But living entity means the very life source that is within that body. So we must always remember that the Supreme Lord has his creative function, and that the infinitesimal living entities have their creative functions also. It is not that there means the infinitesimal living entities, their creative function is lost when they are liberated and enter into the Supreme after the dissolution of the material body. On the contrary, the creative function of the living entity is properly manifested in the liberated state. If the living entity's activities are manifest even when he is materially conditioned, then how is it possible for his activities to stop when he attains liberation? That means when we are in this material world, when we are doing so many activities, and just because we are liberated and we have entered into the supreme existence, it's not possible to stop our activities. The living entity will always continue activities. So this function, creative function, continues even when they are in the liberated state. The living entities entering the state of liberation may be compared to a bird entering a tree. When the bird sits on a tree, all the birds, they enter a tree. After a point, you will not be able to find the birds. You can hear their chirping, but the tree looks as if as it was previously. You will not be able to find the bird. Does that mean the bird has merged into the tree and lost its identity? It has become the tree itself? No. Or this living entity entering the state of liberation is also compared to an animal entering the forest. As soon as the lion or the tiger or the cheetah or the wild animals, they enter into the forest, deep inside the forest, we are unable to see it. We are right there. Actually, I can say this with confidence because this was my, I used to love to go to wildlife sanctuaries, and that was like a something I really loved doing. So in the wee hours in the morning, when everything is like really dark, and we enter in the gypsies and we enter into the forest, and there's a very um, it's a very the feeling is that, okay, any moment we do not know where the cheetah is or where the tiger is sitting, and then we get a news that, okay, just now the tiger came out to drink water in the pond, so it is right there, it has just walked past. But it is so dense, and it is so dense, it is so dark, that even if the tiger is standing right next to us, but it is so camouflaged that you can really not understand that it is standing right next to you. So it is just like that the living entity enters into the state of liberation is like bird entering a tree, it gets camouflaged. Or an animal entering the forest, it is right there, but we cannot see it. Or a plane entering the sky, does the plane disappear, vanish? No, that same plane lands in another state or country or wherever. So in no case the activities are stopped. Even when the plane is in the sky and we are unable to see the plane, but the activities are going on. The animal enters the forest, the activities are going on. The animal continues its activity. The bird continues its activities. Similarly, the living entity also continues its activities even after entering the supreme absolute truth. So that creative function of the living entity is happening even there. Therefore, millions and millions. Again, when Mahavishnu is exhaling out, all these living entities are coming out. In no case the activities are stopped. But the creative function of the supreme absolute truth and the creative function of the living entity are different. They are separate. So we'll pause here for today. And again, Krishna willing, we'll continue reading tomorrow. So, Prabhu, you have a question? Okay, let me pause this. Let me stop the recording so that we don't extend, and then we'll take the question. Hare Krishna. Um, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
हरे हरे बोल श्री श्याम करुणामय माता जी की जय।
जय
All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, let me pause the recording.